Order. It's about 5:33, Monday, February 2nd. This is a committee of the whole meeting. This meeting was called by Councilwoman Classimo Testa. Councilwoman, you have the floor.
Thank you. Bob, if you don't mind coming up. In the manila envelope, he gave us renderings on some projects that they have going on. And I have him here to go through that, kind of some of the financials that he submitted to us back in October in regards to the study and what People First is planning on doing, and just giving us an update, and then we'll go through some questions that we have after.
Sure, thank you, appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. As many of you are aware, we've been working over the course of the last 3 or 4 years to increase the housing stock within the city of Utica, both from the standpoint of the number of available affordable units, but just as importantly in terms of increasing the quality of the units that are available to meet the needs within our community. And when you put these projects together, if in fact you can't show a need, then you might as well not submit a project to the state of New York. Need is first and foremost in their minds as it pertains to whether or not you can compete for the very aggressive funding resources that the state has for affordable housing opportunities. And the second piece of the equation is that you have to have a proven track record. You have to have a proven track record that you're able to be a good developer, that you can close these transactions in a timely fashion, you can complete them in a timely and quality fashion, and that most importantly, that on a post-closing basis, that you can be a good manager and operator as it pertains to meeting the needs of the people that reside within these developments. And we have proven ourselves to be all of the above. And the state considers us as having a stellar record and a proven track record as it pertains to these developments. So 3 or 4 years ago, we looked at our entire portfolio, and our most aged development in our housing portfolio is Adrian Terrace, ND Peters, and FX Met. They encompass approximately 367 units of housing. They house somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 people. The Utica Housing Authority, as I've mentioned to you previously, was one of the first housing authorities established in 1937 under the Public Housing Act. And Adrian Terrace was one of the first projects undertaken in the country. It opened in 1939. And there are approximately 200 units out of the 367 units that encompass Adrian Terrace. We did a study several years ago to determine whether or not it has outlived its useful performance. So we did what they call a property needs assessment to understand exactly what capital needs are undertaken in order to bring that housing development up to standards. And we met what they call the functional obsolescence test. Meaning if in fact you're over, I don't know, it's at 56 or 60% of what their criteria and formula is, you've reached a stage of functional obsolescence. Meaning that you warrant substantial renovations to that site. And when we did this property needs assessment, and it was pre-COVID, so it was 5 or 6 years ago, it was determined that the best course of action for that particular site would be to demolish the existing units and rebuild.
Is that just ND Peters or all?
ND Peters, FX Net, and Adrian Terrace, the whole complex, a 25-acre parcel of land. And so we believed that that was the best approach. So we started down that road to having conversations with the state of New York to determine whether or not there was an appetite to finance such an endeavor. We realized that relocation would be a significant obstacle and challenge, and so we proposed that it be done in phases. When we met a couple of years ago with the Commissioner Vesnakis of HCR, she thought it was worthy of pursuit, but you have to submit an application, which we did. So we submitted an application for funding under what they call a 9% low-income housing tax credit award, which is extremely competitive. You only can apply once a year. It's not on a rolling basis like the 4% projects are. There's probably 150 to 200 applicants. They usually choose somewhere between 30 and 40 recipients. You can reapply in subsequent years. And under normal circumstances, it's not unusual for you to be rejected in the first round. We were not. We were accepted in the first round. So we received a phase 1 9% tax credit award that would allow us to do this, to take down 3 buildings at ND Peters. Buildings C and D, which are resident occupied buildings, and J, which is a non-residential building. And so we would be displacing 28 units at ND Peters. We would then tear down those 3 buildings and rebuild on the existing site a 3-story, 71-unit building. And so when we were approved in March of this year, we've spent the last 6 months working with the state on all the various components of the project. And these projects are not easy, they're extremely complex. Just to close, forget about trying to apply and secure funding for them. So we have secured all the necessary approvals with the exception of one, which we will get this week, and that is a sign-off by HUD, which authorizes us to convert this phase 1 project into a low-income housing tax credit project. HUD only issues approvals on Thursdays of each week. So we anticipate an approval this Thursday, which means phase 1 will close either Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. We have already relocated the 28 units that are being displaced. We, 6 months ago, started taking units offline in anticipation of this closing so that we could relocate the people being displaced within the confines of ND Peters, FX-MAT, and Adrian Terrace. The cost of packing and moving the people to their units and then returning them to the new building are all borne by the project. There are no financial implications imposed upon the residents for this move, except for being inconvenienced. All residents who remain in good standing between now and the completion of the project are guaranteed to move back into the new building. So they're being displaced for a short period of time. Low-income housing tax credit projects have to be completed within 24 months of closing. So the clock starts to tick next week when we sit at a closing table. As it relates to the project itself and the financial details of the project, the project will cost, the 3-story building is approximately 81,000 square feet. It will encompass 71 units, 30 one-bedroom units, 11 two-bedroom units, 27 3-bedroom units, and 3 4-bedroom units. All of those dynamics were reviewed in earnest with the state to ensure that we're meeting the needs both of our existing population, the waiting list that we have, as well as community needs. The total project cost, construction and soft costs and all the ancillary expenses associated therewith is approximately $34 million. We can't finalize all of the numbers, what they call underwriting numbers, until we close. So there is going to be some repenciling of numbers between now and when we close and subsequent to closing And we will furnish you with a copy of the underwriting as it relates to this project. It will be in the same form and content that the Chancellor Broad project that with financials that we submitted to. Of the $34 million, approximately $21 million is hard construction. The other $13 million deal with soft costs, bonds, legal, closing, developer fees, lenders, construction fees, syndicators fees. So the $13 million is approximately 38% of the total budget. And that, based upon the 5 projects that we will have undertaken, is within the realm of reasonableness based upon our experience. The project, as we've alluded to when we talked about Chancellor Broad, requires a pilot agreement. So we applied to the Utica Industrial Development Agency, secured a 33-year pilot, and all the terms and conditions are in the Jack Space office as it pertains to what was approved relative to that project. Why 33 years? Well, the first 3 years really are construction period numbers, and then you need a 30-year pilot for purposes of operating the facility. As I've indicated to you previously, there's one other thing that we try to impose upon our co-developers and our general contractors, is that we want to buy local. So we have spent 2 or 3 meetings talking about who was solicited for purposes of all of the components of subcontracting, all the supplies that are necessary, and at the end of the day, approximately 30 to 35% of the construction costs. So 30 to 35% of the $21 million is going to subcontractors and suppliers within a 50-mile radius of Utica. We will mobilize immediately after closing. One of our board members, our Board of Commissioners members, suggested to us about 2 months ago, in light of the fact that demolition is a component of this project, to inquire of the city as to whether or not they would be amenable to a shared services agreement as it relates to demolition. The day after this was suggested by one of our board members, Steve Rufaro, I met with Mayor Galimi, DPW Commissioner Sokolowski, and Assistant Corporation Counsel Sarah Hughes to inquire whether or not there would be interest for a shared service agreement. They provided me with a draft shared services agreement, which had a schedule of costs that they attached thereto. And after reviewing it, we advised the city that we would be receptive to collaborating with the city as it relates to demolition. So I brought our general contractor into meetings with the mayor and the DPW commissioner, and last week I was informed by our general contractor, the Vicino Group, that they believe that the cost quote that was provided to them for demolition of the 3 buildings in question was fair and reasonable. And that quote was based upon, we didn't negotiate any of the terms and conditions or the cost quotes that were reflected in the shared services agreement. And so our board, and it's my understanding it was also presented to the council for consideration, the Board of Commissioners authorized me to execute the shared services agreement. And I turned it over to the city. It's my understanding that they have executed it as well. So one thing I will say this is Commissioner Sokolowski mentioned that under no circumstances will this demolition be given prioritization as it pertains to work that needs to be done by the DPW department. And so it's not going to be given a preference or a priority, and we don't expect that. And so we hope that sometime in March, early April, we can begin the demolition project. It's my understanding that, based upon the discussions that the city, DPW, and the general contractor have had, that it's approximately a 6-week undertaking to take down the 3 buildings in question. And so as we sit here today, while we cannot sign proposals or subcontracts until we close next week, unless something changes, we intend to follow through with the discussions that we've had with the DPW and exercise a contract or proposal for demolition service. I know I got another project, but why don't we do it one project at a time? If you've got questions as it pertains to Parkway Gardens, I'll be happy to address them.
Sure, so the way we could do it, we could start with Councilman Lomedico, work this way with any questions regarding the statements in this project.
First of all, thank you for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Yeah, you had mentioned it was buildings C, G, and J.
C, D, and J.
Oh, C, D, but, all right. But my question on that, Bob, is that, now, how many other buildings within, and that's just in ND Peters, right?
Correct.
How many other buildings in ND Peters do you plan on demoing down the road?
We intend to demo the remaining buildings, which are approximately 33 additional buildings on site.
That would be all, that'd be for all 3.
For all 3 sites. Our goal is to create a new pocket neighborhood called Parkway Gardens.
So, all right, so this is, so what I'm looking at, so this is a stage 1 of maybe 10 stages to completely demo everything and rebuild everything?
I don't think it's that many. I believe what we have done is we have already submitted to the state of New York a phase 2 application. We have had a technical assistance session for them to review the components of the application that took place in mid-December. We will have additional, they will have additional comments, questions, and issues presented to us by the end of this month. What we anticipate is we'll have approximately 2 additional phases.
Just for ND Peters or
No, for the entire complex.
So I guess phase 2 and 3 are gonna be a lot bigger than just phase 1 then?
Correct.
And so you're gonna have to, it's gonna be quite a chore for you to take that population and remove them other places then, I'm assuming.
We intend, once we have this additional working session with the state, and if they make a decision to what they call green light the project, which means continue to proceed in the fashion that you're going to get approved, then we will start working with a relocation specialist to work out a strategic plan to take the units offline so that we can accommodate some of the people that need to be relocated. But we will come up with a plan, a relocation plan, that the state and others, and we'll be happy to present it to the council, will have to act on to ensure that we're representing and meeting all the needs of the residents who will be displaced on a temporary basis.
I see, but this 97, excuse me, this 9% tax award, that's just good for phase 1 and what you're working now. So, have you spoke with the government, was this federal or state, I apologize?
State.
Have you spoke with the state government, and are they assuring you if you complete this stage 1 correctly and on time and everything, then stage 2 and 3 should come right behind it? You know, what type of assurances are you getting?
At this stage, we have no assurances. At this stage, what we have is a pending application in front of them for the remaining project. They had the review session with us in mid-December. They reviewed our proposal. They're going to come back to us with questions. So there's a process associated with this. We anticipate that in the next 2 to 3 months, we should be provided an answer by the state as to whether or not there is an appetite to approve additional phases at Parkway Gardens. So another couple of months before we're gonna hear anything.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much.
Not a problem, my pleasure.
Thank you, Bob. Couple questions. Can you just go back on to how the Municipal Housing Authority got branded People First?
Sure.
And
Sure.
touch on that first, if you don't mind.
So several years ago, we started talking internally about a couple of things. How can we rebrand ourselves, or should we rebrand ourselves to reflect what our true mission is? And our true mission, as I've mentioned to this body on a previous location, a previous time, that we said to ourselves 12 years ago that we had to be more than a key. We did a great job of providing safe, affordable, clean, and secure housing. But we failed to address the primary component of housing, and that's the people that reside with you. There's a reason that they reside with you. They have needs. They have vulnerabilities. And so we made a point that we had to become people-focused, people-friendly, people-driven, and everything else will take care of itself. And that's what we have done. We focus on the individual, not the apartment. And so we said to ourselves, should we rebrand? Should we consider a different name? And we came to the conclusion internally that we should. And we said that if in fact we truly are people-driven, that People First would be a name that we should consider. Our legal name has been and will always be the Municipal Housing Authority of the City of Utica, New York. So what we did is filed a DBA with our legal name under People First. We submitted that DBA to HUD to secure their approval. They passed judgment on it. And so our legal name and the name in which we do business are two different names. So any legal documents is under the name of the Municipal Housing Authority of the City of Utica, New York. But we call ourselves People First. And there's a second reason that we did it. And that is, we didn't feel it was fair to the people that we serve to be subjected to a stigma. There's a stigma, ladies and gentlemen, to live in public housing. There's a stigma when you sign a housing application and they ask you where you reside, and you say, I reside at Adrian Terrace under the Municipal Housing Authority. I don't think anybody should be subjected to that stigma. And so that was a compelling reason for us to change it.
Okay, and that goes back to my next question, and maybe I have interpreted the mission of municipal housing differently than any other person, but from my understanding is that municipal housing was supposed to be a stepping stone in order to get people off that assistance to be self-sustainable amongst themselves. So I guess, what is the goal of People First? Is it long-term housing for the rest of that person's,
I think it's
or people's lives, or is it like, how do you get them to transition out of that public housing component to transition to be that owner-occupied goal of what I believe the mission was originally for public housing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we would love to have everybody transition and move up the ladder, so to speak, and take advantage of the American dream. But it's the reality is it's not meant for everybody. And we still have a responsibility to those people that reside with us to provide quality housing. And so we help people that want to transition. We have what they call a family self-sufficiency program. And I won't get into the particulars, but instead of paying rent, you can escrow money. So if in fact you Your rent is based upon your compensation levels, 30% of your adjusted gross income. If you go and get a promotion and you're under the FSS program, the additional money that you earn based upon the promotion, some of that can be what they call escrow and put into a savings account for you. And you can use that for purposes of bettering yourselves and your needs of your family, using it as a down payment on a home. So we have a program that allows you, instead of paying us additional rent because your income has risen, to save some of the money in an account so that you can better yourself, and if in fact you desire, move into the private sector. And the reality is that there's always going to be working poor. You know, as rents and home values increase, the American dream is more difficult for people to go into the private sector, both on a rental and a home ownership basis. So there's always a need for the type of housing that we're talking about. And so what all we're doing is trying to enhance the quality of life. I mean, really, that's the ultimate goal. And from my standpoint, where I stand and the way I forecast what we should be doing, it's all of our humanitarian duty to try to enhance the quality of life of people. And by increasing the housing environments that people are subjected to, what are you doing? You're showing people that you care, number one. You're providing some hope and opportunity that they're just not a number, and they're just not going to flail in a system. You're hoping to change mentalities and mindsets so they can take it upon themselves and show some self-initiative to get ahead in life. So it's not all about bricks and mortars, ladies and gentlemen. It's about mentalities and mindsets and providing hope and opportunity. And when they see new homes and they see that people genuinely care about them, then they feel differently about themselves.
And Bob, do you have a list of those people that take advantage of like a number
Sure.
that you could
We
get to me?
We can get you, Jerry George runs our FSS program. So assuming that that's releasable information.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be
We will
roundabout.
provide you with the numbers. There's a limit, there's a cap that you can go to, and I believe our cap is 56 families. So that's the limitation that we can give benefits to under the FSS program.
Okay, I have a couple more questions, and then I'll pass the mic and bring it back to me if I have to. So you're talking 71 apartments in the rehab of the ND Peters, correct? You said it at a hard cost at about $34 million.
Correct.
My question is you just completed a project on Broad Street and obviously Chancellor to the tune of $101 million for, I think it was 167 apartments. What is the difference in the cost here being lower than what it would be for those 167 apartments?
Well, first of all, there is no such thing as a universal formula for projects. When you do gut renovations of an existing building, or you transform an old warehouse into an apartment building, the costs associated with those endeavors are substantially higher than if in fact you're doing new construction. And if you look at what we're doing at Parkway Gardens besides demolition, and the demolition cost, from what I've been told, is about $300,000 out of that construction. So the lion's share of these costs is just to build new. And so you're going to see a difference on a square foot basis as well as a per unit basis in terms of new construction versus renovation of existing construction. So there lies the challenge. You know, when you have a warehouse that has one heating system and you're now installing 74 individual heating systems in a building, and that building was never designed for housing. That's a mammoth undertaking from an engineering and construction standpoint. So the cost to do an adaptive reuse of a warehouse is considerably more expensive than if in fact you're doing new construction.
Okay. A couple more questions. I know that with Eagles Nest, at the last meeting, you had brought up that you are transitioning from a not-for-profit type status to a for-profit status. How does that coincide with People First being under the umbrella of being for-profit and non-for-profit?
We're not transitioning from not-for-profit to profit-for-profit. What we are doing is
For that one building, though?
What's that?
For Eagles Nest, though,
Yeah,
you are
for
for-profit?
Eagles Nest,
Okay.
what we have done is we've created a for-profit limited liability company called Eagles Nest Utica LLC. And that entity will be solely responsible for every component of Eagles Nest. So when we took out a loan with Adirondack Bank, it was not undertaken in People First name or under the MHA banner. MHA did not sign as a guarantor on that particular loan. So this standalone entity, Eagles Nest LLC, is for profit. It will pay taxes, both income and real property taxes, and it'll be responsible for the management and maintenance of this particular site. So while the MHA is a member, the sole member of the entity, the legal entity owns the property, manages it, maintains it, pays the expenses, and it has no monies associated with the MHA, subsidies or rental income is being pledged or utilized to pay the expenses associated with Eagles.
So maybe you can clarify, because that goes back to a couple more questions that I had. Is obviously, not obviously, is People First overseeing the Eagles Nest project?
Sure, we're the sole member of Eagles Nest LLC. So we are responsible, I am responsible, to ensure that the integrity of that project is completed as designed.
So I guess it goes back to another question that I have, is how, if you have is the People First board and MHA and whoever that oversees this, they're making the decisions based on this project.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going for that for-profit status, don't you think that there should be another entity established to oversee that for-profit component?
We do.
Who's
Eagles
that?
Nest LLC
So those
is the entity. And just so you're aware, we use the same business model that we used at Utica University. So at Utica University, we partnered with others to build 36 on-campus housing units for the student population. So we created a separate for-profit entity that borrowed the money, that oversaw the construction, that signed the ground leases with Utica University. And so that has been in place now for 5, 6, 7 years. So that model has proven the test of time, and we use the same business approach that we did at Utica College with regards to this. And we were told by everybody that this is a proper approach to establish, and it's not only proper, it's the right approach to distinguish between not-for-profit business and for-profit business. So we just mimicked what we did at Utica College, and it's survived the test of time. We pay taxes and pay income taxes and the like, and it's proven that it can work in that fashion.
So People First came up with the money for the apartments at Utica University and received
No,
those funds?
Let me just,
Go ahead.
it's 5 or 6 years ago, so I want
Fine.
to make sure I'm accurate in what I'm saying. We didn't pledge any money as it pertains to the Utica University project. We received 9% of the income associated with that. The other partners that are involved in the enterprise did all the construction, posted all of the financial loan documents that were utilized, I believe, through the community bank to build the project. So we're not involved in the financial component
Okay,
of that project.
so then that goes back to my last question, and I'll pass, because obviously we're pressed for time, we got the fire department here as well. Where did Eagles Nest get their funding in order to start a for-profit business from MHA and People First that is established through HUD funding and municipal housing?
That's a very good question. And what happened is that People First has what they call non-restrictive monies. Monies that they've obtained through developer fees and the like over the course of years. We have the ability to pledge those assets as we deem fit. And so non-restrictive monies were utilized in order to generate the equity share of Eagle's Nest. And so that's how we started the enterprise.
So, and then I guess one last question, I'm sorry. Who is Eagles Nest? Who operates that LLC for?
Well, the sole member of Eagles Nest Utica LLC is the housing.
Okay, that is, okay. Now, one of the last questions, I'm sorry, guys, I just, two more, and I apologize, you're here, and I want to ask you while you're here. One of the things that I guess goes back to an original question and discussion I've had with other people in regards to this is, you have union employees under People First. You utilize and operate under People First, which is obviously for a not-for-profit. When you go into that for-profit, is it still going to be unionized, and are you still going to be using those People First vehicles and so on and so forth? Is that brand, or is it going to be under something new?
We're going to hire third-party contractors to do the work.
Okay. And that's just for Eagles Nest?
Just for you.
Just for Eagles Nest, okay. All right, that's all I got. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming tonight. I actually have no questions for you at the moment. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Bob. I just got a couple of things. On Eagle's Nest, is there a pilot on that also? No pilot for Eagle's Nest?
Fully taxed.
Okay. And from when you switch over to municipal housing to People's First, and then you explained why you did it, is there any financial gain in doing that?
None.
None at all. Okay, and my last question is, when you talk about transitional people that, you know, they get into these housing, and obviously we'd like to see them get out. Can you give me like a rough estimate of people that, like in the last, how long have you been there? You've been at 13 years? Rough estimate, how many people, once they're in, take off and got a house, or realistically, does anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, percentage-wise, I don't think we have the data that can provide you accurately with that percentage.
So would you say out of every 100 people, maybe 5 people? Is that accurate?
You know, Joe,
Oh, that's okay. I'm just,
I was
yeah.
remiss to.
Yeah, I'd like to know.
Guesstimate, because I really don't.
It's got to be a very low number, though, correct?
Not necessarily.
No? Okay.
Not necessarily. I mean, you know, it different. You know, a lot of these people work their way up the ladder and are looking for opportunities to better themselves and their families and look for private housing. I think it's gotten, as I indicated, I think it's gotten extremely difficult with the rising rents and the rising interest rates. But under the right atmosphere and environment, I think people are looking to get out. But you know, you got to understand, for every person that wants to leave, there's 2 or 3 people that want to enter the mix. And so the waiting list has not been reduced.
Listen, my family started in Adrian Terrace back in the 50s. My grandparents lived there with 5 boys, and so little by little they moved out. There's a lot of prominent people that started living in that area and worked their way out. So.
You know, I would just say this with regards to Eagle's Nest.
I'm not talking Eagles.
But I'm just saying,
talking
I just,
Adrian
yeah,
Terrace.
but I just like to say this with regards to Eagle's Nest, just so everybody's aware. And I ask this as a question: how many developers in this community have a desire to undertake a private gated community in the city? I mean, that land has been for sale for at least a decade, if not longer. So what we have done is taken a chance, taken risk, because we were told that there are substantial people in the northeast section of Utica that would like to downsize, that would like to go into a gated community where it's fully managed and maintained, and we provide all of the repairs, but I don't see anybody else taking this, okay? And we did it for one reason, or two reasons. Number one, we feel that we're a preeminent leader of housing in general within this community. And two, that we believe that we have a fiduciary responsibility to those people that want to continue to reside in the city of Utica on a market rate basis to give them options and opportunities. So you can question how it's been established, and you can question with regards to whether or not it was the right approach. But we stood up and took on an endeavor that we're extremely proud of, and to be very candid with you, it has, the interest level in Eagles Nest has outperformed my wildest dreams in terms of interest level. I received two calls this week, one from a couple in Rhode Island who are moving here, and they're interested. They want to apply. And they don't want to just say I'm interested, they want to actually put in an application. And the second person is a person that's in a management structure on the eastern seaboard, and Northeast is his primary responsibility. He chose Utica. I don't know why he chose Utica, but he looked into Eagles Nest and he wants to apply. So we are not just attracting or giving the opportunity for empty nesters to continue to reside in Utica instead of fleeing to the Marcys, the Deerfields, New Hartfords, the Clintons of the world. We're staying at home in Utica, New York. We're also attracting some of the newbies that are coming into Utica. So to me, this is nothing but a win-win situation for everyone. And something that all of us, in this room and outside this room, should be immensely proud of.
So one last thing. It's on a different topic, kind of. So do you ever foresee yourself, just the way you're speaking, how to develop them and nobody developed on that? You ever see your guys going into like some of the streets, the neighborhoods where we have a lot of housings that are beat up and like kind of like a West Street project? Do you ever see your company doing anything like that to develop neighborhoods?
I mean, to engage at our last meeting,
Like say purchase
home ownership opportunities
Yeah.
was a topic.
Yeah,
No,
well,
one
so,
of them.
I mean, because basically what you're saying now is this land was for sale for 10 years.
Mhm.
Nobody took a chance on it.
Mhm.
There's opportunity, people wanted it, and I agree with you, okay? But did you guys ever look at, like, with money going in and saying, okay, I'm not even totally sure of a street. We got 10 or 15 houses here that are, beat up, foreclosure or whatever, taking those and redeveloping those? Did you ever look, is that something that you guys would consider doing?
There was a HUD program many years ago when we first started that allowed us to do home renovations. And we had that program, and then that money dried up.
So that's not available?
We built 2 home ownership opportunities, affordable opportunities, at the old Lincoln School site. We built 6 homes there.
Right.
Oak Street, we built 6 homes.
Right, which is a good thing. I'm just asking you.
So,
I mean,
Joe, we believe that we have a responsibility to continue the trend. So we are actively looking at opportunities to further enhance the housing stock within this community, whether it be affordable, home ownership, market rate. And from a selfish standpoint, ladies and gentlemen, just understand Utica University, understand Eagles Nest. So you branch out, and you branch out on those initiatives. And what's the purpose of doing it? You're meeting a need, number one, but just as importantly, all of the money, the net income that comes back, goes back into to serve the main underlying purpose and mission of the housing authority. It doesn't go in people's pockets. I don't get any additional money as it pertains to whether or not we do this project or not. It goes back in order to provide alternative revenue streams so that when our subsidies are decreased, that we have the opportunity to continue to function. And when our subsidies are increased, to actually flourish and do more with our subsidies. You know, just for insurance purposes, just to understand the lay of the land as we sit here today. In 2024, our global insurance cost for the Municipal Housing Authority was $800,000. In 2025, those same coverages went to $1.8 million. So in 1 year, our global insurance expenses went up $1 million. And in 2026, that 1.8 is now risen to 2.2 million. Unless you think outside the box and create alternate means and measures to add additional forms of revenue, you're not going to be able to meet your mission. And so 5 or 6 years ago, we said we have to expand in order to be able to sustain ourselves, survive, thrive, whatever you want to call it. So this was a strategic approach that we made 5 or 6 years ago, and it will have grave returns. You know, when the return on the investment and the equity is paid off with regards to the Utica universities and the Eagle's Nest, we're going to have substantial net income available to us in order to enhance the quality of life in this community and be an additional benefit to the city. I think we're already an asset to the city. Okay, we've infused hundreds of millions of dollars into this community. Okay, we've created stabilizations. We've changed mindsets and mentalities. We created hope and opportunity. We've increased the number of units. I was just calculating between the additional units at Broad Street 74, the 43 additional units at Phase 1 of Parkway Gardens, the Impact Cornhill, which is going to add 102 units. We're going to add 229 units of affordable housing to meet the needs of people. So it enhances not only the number that are available, but it enhances the quality of the units. So, I respect anybody that wants to ask questions. We believe it. I respect anybody that doesn't agree with my opinion and perspective. That's what life's all about. That's why Baskin-Robbins has 37 flavors of ice cream, because everybody's got a different taste. Okay? You should never sell anybody short because they have a different perspective. But I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud of our track record. We've accomplished a lot in 13 years, and my peers come to us and have been asking us questions as to how are you doing this? How are you able to secure these kind of monies in a very competitive environment with the state of New York? And ladies and gents, because we proved ourselves. We've got an impeccable reputation in terms of how we deal with people. And I'll stand up to anybody that wants to challenge me on the fact that we might not be an asset to this community. We're an asset to this community, and I'm proud to call it an asset to this community. So I don't want to go too far, but Impact Cornhill is another project. I just want to give you the ins and outs so that everybody understands what Impact Cornhill is about. And Impact Cornhill is a project that was conceived by the city of Utica. The city of Utica put out a request for proposals 4, 5, 6 years ago to develop a project on the corner of Nielsen and James. They called it the Renaissance Center. We as a housing authority applied for and submitted a proposal for the Renaissance Center. We were awarded the developing opportunity to do the Renaissance Center. So the Renaissance Center started as a 4-story building that was going to have commercial space, so it's a mixed-use site, commercial space on the first floor. We're talking about doing a satellite grocery store, some retail shops, create what they call entrepreneurial pods so that people in the community could test their wares and skills to see if in fact they could bring their ideas to the marketplace. So that these would be free of charge for up to a year and use that as an opportunity to foster their interest. And then the community foundation said that they wanted to do another project. They wanted to do a project in Cornhill. They called that project Thrive Cornhill. And at the centerpiece of their project, they wanted to build a multi-purpose recreational facility and community space so that they could serve the interest of the Cornhill neighborhood. So I had never met Alicia Dix, but I was introduced to Alicia, and we decided to join forces and do one project at 2 sites. So we have the site at the corner of Nielsen and James, which is a project that has 4 stories. The upper 3 stories are affordable units, 1 and 2 bedroom units. There are 24 units on the upper 3 stories. The second site is in between West and Miller Street in the 1100 block. And that site encompasses 119,000 square feet of space. You have renderings in front of you that shows you the building, so it's 4 stories. There's 26,000 square feet of community space, community kitchen, not-for-profit space. On the first floor, there's an additional 9,000 square feet of a multi-purpose recreational facility on the first floor. And then the remaining space on the first floor and the second through 4th floors encompass 78 residential units, 57 one-bedroom, 21 two-bedroom units. And this project also has a demolition component that the
Did we
city.
get a picture of this, Bob?
What's
I got
that?
the Renaissance.
No, there should be, there should
Maybe
be
that's
3.
this one here?
That's the one, right there.
Okay, so this is gonna be the.
This is the one on West and Miller, 1100 block of West and Miller, 119,000 square feet. The one on James and Nielsen is 38,000 square feet. We submitted what they call a 4% application, meaning 4% are not as competitive as the 9%. You can apply at any time, and they determine whether or not you meet all the criteria, similar to what we're doing at Parkway Gardens. We were informed last year that they approved, that being HCR, approved the project, this dual site project, and we're scheduled to close on this project in mid-March of this year. So we'll have 2 sites under construction in Cornhill at the locations that I just mentioned. We insist again with regards to local subs and suppliers. Right now, based upon the proposals that we reviewed to date, approximately 40 to 45% of the construction budget will utilize local subs and local suppliers. The total project cost, both hard construction, soft and ancillary expenses, is $85 million. $62 million of which is construction. It's about 73% of the total budget. 23 million or thereabouts. Again, they don't finalize the true numbers until you close, but right now approximately 23 million are soft bond costs, closing, development fees, legal, syndicator fees, and the like. So that project will start in the spring of this year. Again, a 2-year timeline. There is also a pilot agreement with regards to that. Again, 33 years, as I mentioned, with regards to Parkway Gardens. Again, just it's a great project because it's mixed use. It's not strictly residential. And what the problem when you have mixed use projects is the state only funds the residential component. You've got to find alternate monies in order to fund the non-residential component. So the operations of the community space at Impact Center, some of the building costs associated with the gymnasium and community center. So here's what the Community Foundation has done. They have committed $4 million towards the project cost. They have also signed a 30-year guarantee. And that 30-year guarantee says this: if the non-residential components of the project lose money, that they will guarantee that they will underwrite the deficits for the next 30 years. Without that guarantee, this project would not have gotten approved. So Alicia, this is the first project. You know, the Community Foundation has always been in the business of funding projects. They've never been in the business of developing projects. This is the first project where they're developing. And I think they're developing because they trust us. And we've established a great rapport and a relationship, and we're excited about the collaborative undertaking. They will oversee, the Community Foundation will oversee, People First will own both sites, both buildings. We will sublet to the Community Foundation all non-residential space. So, and they will be overseeing, supervising, and managing the non-residential components of this project, and we will be managing and overseeing the residential components of this project. We've created a great synergy between our two respective organizations.
Thank you. We could pick up where we left off. Councilman Irvin, any questions about the first project or the second here?
Okay, the first project, with the relocation of the tenants from indicators, when they come back, is their rent gonna be the same, or is it gonna, because that's a pretty nice project, that's gonna be a lot different than where they're living now.
The rental formula will not change.
Okay.
And they're guaranteed, as long as they're in good standing when the project is completed, meaning they don't owe money or they haven't left and now want to come back. As long as they stay there and are in good standing, we have to guarantee them a unit in the new building.
Okay. And the second question I had is about the Impact Center, not the one on James Street, but the one on West Street. I know, is it Mid-City that's involved in it? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, they're involved in it because it's pretty much their property, some of it.
Yes.
So I know about that, but, and I know you're gonna be able to get your money, you probably already had your money for the apartment side of the.
We will when we close in mid-March.
The rest of it, the community center and whatever else, and the community foundation, do they have their money yet?
Well, they haven't received their money, but they're prepared. We have all of the necessary resources aligned to provide us with those resources once we close. So we have a balanced development budget to do the project. So the project is real, both from a non-residential standpoint and a residential standpoint. And I was going to say something with regards to the non-residential piece. But
Yeah. And last question, I know the city of Utica kicked in money for the project up on James Street.
Correct.
Did they kick in any money for it?
So
on West Street?
the question is, when the RFP went out from the city of Utica, the RFP stated that the city of Utica would allocate $922,000 out of ARPA funds for purposes of pre-development expenses associated with this project. We have taken that $922 and we've used it both for James Street as well as West and Miller Street. So that sum of money was built into the project budgets for both sites.
Okay. And I was just wondering, because I didn't know if all of the council people knew that had happened with the money that the city of Utica did allocate for that project.
So we have the Mid-Utica site, the West and Miller Street, has 12 parcels.
Right. 12
parcels associated. 2 of those parcels are owned by Mid-Utica
Right.
neighborhood.
Right.
Okay, they're going to continue to own those 2 parcels. They're going to give us a 70-year ground lease on those 2 parcels. The city of Utica has 5 or 6 parcels, or Urban Renewal has 5 or 6 parcels that they've committed under a municipal resolution towards this project. And the other 5 parcels, we're acquiring buildings and parcels from adjoining private landowners.
Yeah.
That encompass 5 parcels, so that we can have a footprint to do the building, to create a new playground, and to have the necessary parking for both residential and non-residential.
So who's gonna, because they're gonna eliminate the playground that's next to the Head Start Center. Is the city of Utica gonna be responsible for building another playground?
No, it's gonna be built into our development budget.
Okay.
So what we intend to do, and we've had preliminary conversations, we haven't finalized all the terms and conditions. There is a parcel of land owned by Mohawk Valley Community Action on Miller Street, directly across, it's on the corner of South and Miller.
Right.
Directly across from the Mohawk Valley Community Action Building.
Yeah, I know that.
And we're gonna convert that into the playground.
Okay.
And the budget right now for the playground is $500,000.
Okay, I'm done.
Thanks, Councilman. I just had a few questions too, Mr. Kelly. So going back to the first project, discussing the timeline, I think you mentioned low-income housing. There's 24 months to complete the project after closing. What are the consequences? Is it a sliding scale of consequences if it's not completed in that time frame? Could you go through that a little?
But see, what all these projects are funded for one purpose, is that there are tax benefits derived by the investors. And if you can't deliver those tax benefits in a timely fashion, then there are substantial penalties, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you have to ensure that you meet that 24-month responsibility. Otherwise, there are sizable consequences.
Okay. Eagle's Nest. Roughly, what's the acreage of that parcel? Just want to get an idea.
Just under 5 acres.
Okay. Is the Municipal Housing Authority the sole member of any other LLCs currently, or is Eagle's Nest LLC or Eagle's Nest Utica?
All of these projects require you, so whether it be Parkway Gardens, Chancellor Broad, Roosevelt Residences, there is a structure, a model that's used for purposes of putting these developments together. And all of those developments have LLCs, and many of those LLCs, Municipal Housing Authority is the sole member of those LLCs.
And in terms of market rate projects, are there any other market rate projects currently being considered for acquisition, construction, to the extent you can speak to it at this point?
I don't, we're not here for recognition or accolades, but as a result of our reputation in the community and in the region, we're now being approached by people who would like to partner with us on other projects, whether they be affordable or market rate. So in answer to your question, yeah, there are projects in concept and in discussion as it relates to, and they're in the city of Utica.
Okay. And my final few questions have to do with the concept of the cost associated with substantial rehabilitation versus new construction. Did you mention that costs associated with substantial rehabilitation is far higher than new construction based on what you've seen? Okay. Now, and you mentioned that MHA is involved in multiple projects where demo is included. Have the cost of demolition gone up over the past several years?
We really haven't had any projects prior projects that required demolition. So, but like anything else, it's gone up.
Roosevelt School you did, right?
The environment, what's that? No, Roosevelt Residence, we didn't. That was demolished prior. That was demolished prior to us taking responsibility to build on it. We had to bring in some suitable soils, but we did not have to engage in any demolition as it relates there too. The real question is whether or not you have to take the fill to a registered landfill, because of contamination. It's extremely expensive to do that. So that's where the cost is. And I know people have or have inquired of us. Was there a significant savings realized to Parkway Gardens by utilizing city crews for purposes of demolition. Based upon what was told to me by the general contractor last week, the difference between what was quoted by the city and was quoted in a proposal by a third-party vendor was less than $10,000.
That's all the questions I have, if Councilman Burmaster has any. Thank you for coming in.
Well, I want to thank you for coming, and on the Parkway Gardens, you mentioned that we had 367 page after you're done with all 3 phases. How many do you project that we're going to end up with?
Good question. So we have right now 367 units there, and we intend to end up with 435 units. Not only end up with 435 units, but we'll have more green space than we have now. And why will we have more green space? Because we'll have 2 large structures on that site. We'll have the 3-story building that will go up as phase 1. And then as phase 2, where our property borders Mohawk Valley Community College, so this would be on the southerly boundary of our property, we will erect a 4-story, 144-unit building there. So we're going to create more green space as a result of the new endeavor, even though it has 435 units than we have under the existing floor plan, site plan.
And with that number increasing to 435, would more people be able to get into the program to allow them to put money into the equity? You mentioned 56 in a program to.
Yeah, the family self-sufficiency program that I mentioned.
Would that number go up because your apartments are going to go up?
You know, I'm not sure as I sit here today, but I can ask that question and give you an answer.
Very good. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly, for coming. And, you know, I've heard the questions of what are people doing? Are you assisting people to get out of living in these complexes? And I think a lot of people miss the fact a ton of the residents are seniors also. This is their final stage of life in a lot of ways. And thank you for giving them a place to live with dignity. And not everybody even is on assistance. I remember you said the story once of a woman who decided to stay, and she can at what full price I believe you guys charge a rent for.
That woman has been with us for 55 years. She was one of the residents that was displaced. And she pays what they call flat rent. So she has a 2-bedroom unit. She pays $1,600 or $1,700 a month, and everybody asks her why. She said, I don't want to leave my home. ND Peters is my home.
Right. And yeah, she raised her 4 kids there, and no, you have a great system. And I really don't have any questions other than that. I've been fortunate. Anytime I have questions, you're a phone call away, and super helpful. And I'm just grateful you're in the position that you are. There are a lot of stigmas attached to this, and you just are sticking up for the people who can't stick up for themselves, especially in these positions. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. If I could just close with just one comment, and I know I've taken up a lot of your time, and I apologize. I would ask that all of us, and I use the word we, not you or me, I would ask you and everybody that has an interest in helping human beings to take the time to focus on the bad actors within this community. I will not name the bad actors, but I know who they are. They're absentee landlords. They only worry about the bottom line. They could give 2 rats' asses about the welfare and the interests of people, human beings, who have first and last names, who have feelings and emotions, and the same desires and goals and objectives that you and I have. I'll just give you a short story. 2 of our residents at Chancellor who relocated from one of these bad actors lived in a 10-story building on the lower end of Genesee Street. I think you can figure out what location I'm talking. And as part of our application process, which is very rigorous, we do home inspections. We want to see where you're living and how you are taking full responsibility for your home and your unit. And so I made a decision that I was going to go and do the home inspection personally at this building. It was a mother and son. The son resided on the second floor, the mother resided on the 10th floor. I walked in the building, no security. Anybody could walk in and out of the building at any time. It was deplorable, the conditions on the first floor. I pressed the button on the elevator to get to the 10th floor, and this is no exaggeration. It took me 8 minutes to go from floor 1 to floor 10. And I took the stairs on the way down. And I went and visited this mother, this woman, this human being, had a first and last name. And she cried in my arms and said to me, Mr. Calley, I'm a prisoner in my apartment. Her words, not mine. I'm a prisoner in my apartment. And she said, will you please rescue me? Her words again, not mine. Her unit was, she was clean, but old, outdated, things didn't work, floors were heaving, paint peeling, refrigerator, was on but barely working. And then I proceeded to take the stairwell to the second floor. Fecal matter, urine in the stairwell, spent hypodermic needles. On the 4th floor, I found 2 people under a blanket living on a landing. No way anybody should live like that. I got to the 2nd floor, his unit was worse than his mother's. They now live at Chancellor. They're happy. They're content. They're proud. They believe that people genuinely care about them now. And to me, that's what success is all about. It's not about money. It's about taking care of the welfare of a fellow human being. That's why we do all these things. We don't do it for accolades. We don't do it for recognition. We do it to try to strengthen this community. And so I would respectfully ask you to challenge yourself to do the same with regards to the bad actors. Applaud the good actors. There's nothing wrong with having good actors in a community. They strengthen the community. They make us stronger. They make us prouder. There's no reason why you have to kick the good actors, but you should confront the bad actors, because we all have a responsibility, those people that have no choice but to live in squalor. And so I will pledge to you that I'll do my darndest to ensure that we enhance the quality of life of all people, and especially those people that now consider themselves prisoners of their own homes. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you again for coming in. Does anyone want to take a couple-minute break before we transition to the UFD portion?
That sounds good.
You want to take a few-minute break? All right.
Sorry, Chief. I would have invited you a little later.
Yeah, we can get going here. I think they'll come in a couple minutes. All right, it's 6:57. We're picking up where we left off. This portion addresses Utica Fire Department. Councilwoman Testa also requested this meeting. Councilwoman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, or Mr. President. I'm so used to saying that, Councilman Vitar. So the reason that I asked you guys to come tonight is for a couple of things, to give us a little background on the recent fires that have happened inside the city. And we'll just start off with that and give us a little rundown on what's been going on and how the fire department's handling it.
Yeah, so the month of January was obviously a busy month. About 1,360 calls for service. It includes structure fires, alarms, medical calls, transports.
What month was that, was January?
It was for January. Over the last 2 years, last January and the January before, we were just a little bit over what we just did this past month. But when it comes to structure fires and reported structure fires, there's 29 reported structure fires. 8 of those were working fires or needed additional manpower at the scene. So 8 out of the 29. 5 were second alarms. 1 was just a working fire, and another one, the other 2 were third alarm fires. Unfortunately, we did lose. Tragically, we lost 2 occupants of 18 Jewett Place last week. Also, we had 6 firefighters suffer, actually 7 firefighters total, suffered injuries in the past 8 fires. All but 1 has returned to work. We're waiting on another evaluation for one of the firefighters, and we're hoping to see him back on the next day. We have our partners at UPD were able to make an arrest on the Court Street fire, and it was good fire investigation work and good cooperation with the Utica Police. The other remaining fires are all under active investigations. We have a good idea on of where we're headed with those fires. We have noticed an issue, and we talk about this every heating season, is an issue with space heaters, whether they're electric or gas, whether they're wall mounted or just in the middle of a room or on the side of a room. Some of these fires are absolutely attributable to space heaters and contents being placed either on the heater or too close to the heater and it not being monitored. We've had issues at a couple of these properties with smoke detectors not being present, or if they were present, they weren't operational at the time of the fire. And we've had fires during the day. We've had fires in the middle of the night. The night of the 21st going into the 22nd, there was a fire at 1014 Bleecker Street. That's where 3 of our firefighters suffered burn injuries. All 3 were, 2 out of 3 were evaluated. Equipment was really, functioned as it should. And these fires were well advanced, unfortunately. That night of the 21st, that fire was originally reported at 11:43 at night. Firefighters arrived. They had a large 3-story building with heavy fire coming out of the back and extended all the way up into the attic before our arrival. Approximately 20 residents in that building, so our firefighters aggressively searched and were able to get in there. Due to the weather conditions that night, we not only, so when we have a working fire, we call back additional personnel to man an engine and an ambulance. We call back an additional deputy chief and a safety officer that reports to the fire scene. That particular fire was a second alarm, so we staffed an engine and a truck, which was 8 personnel, plus the air van, which was another 2 personnel, plus the ambulance and deputy chief and the safety officer. Due to the weather conditions that night, we actually staffed an additional apparatus, an additional truck and an engine. So we had at least an additional 21 people that came back from off-duty to supplement what was going on at that fire. And we brought them, the additional personnel back because we know we're going to have an extended operation there. And then unfortunately, the second fire on Jewett Place came in at 5:00, I believe it was dispatched at 5:06 in the morning, and obviously that was a very significant fire and resulted in the loss of life of 2 individuals that are greatly missed by their families.
Okay, thank you, Chief. The first off, I want to start, where is the table of organization right now within the Utica Fire Department?
As far as
Staffing for firefighters?
So we have, I believe we have 9 openings right now. We have 2 personnel completing the hiring process. Actually, we have 3 personnel in various stages of the hiring process. We're hoping to appoint 2 out of the 3 the coming weeks. We have another person, the 3rd person is finishing up their medical, and they will be appointed to get into the fire academy. The fire academy starts March 16th. We had 66 people take the civil service test on January 10th. I believe 10 out of the 66 are graduates or recent graduates of the Utica Fire Academy. So if they score well, they're going to be in a good position to obviously step in if they're in that position to get hired onto the fire department. We're hoping to have that test back sometime in April. Once that test comes back, we'll be able to establish the list. We'll do the physical fitness test, and at the conclusion of the physical fitness test, we'll start the background process for everybody that passes the PT test. And the background process does take 6 to 8 weeks, depending on availability. There's a psychological testing that has to go on, and then there's a meeting with the psychiatrist. There's a medical examination, and then we can appoint the personnel.
So you said that the Fire Academy was starting March 16th, but you weren't getting the test results till when?
We don't expect the test results back until sometime in mid to late April.
And when did you plan on starting the next academy?
The next academy is slated to start August. The next fire academy is scheduled to start, I believe it's August 24th.
And you said when would you be able to start them in the academy when they complete that test? What would be the soonest date? I mean, obviously April seems like it would be pretty, or August seems like it would be pretty far out.
Yeah, it's all dependent on when that exam comes back. So we have to do an orientation for the physical fitness test. By state and local civil service rules, the orientation is done. We have to wait 30 days before we can administer that physical fitness test. And that 30 days is after we do the orientation, the people have a opportunity to not only practice but to prepare for that physical fitness examination. It's just the process that's in place. So once that physical agility test is administered, again, background checks. Once the background checks are complete, they come for an interview. Once the interviews are complete, they're given conditional offers of employment, and then they go through the psychological testing and the medical testing. We can't do the medical until the psychological is done, and we can't do the psychs until they have conditional offers of employment.
Okay. And now, I mean, obviously we're past that 8 that we put on for the SAFER grant. Is there any jeopardy of losing that, knowing that we're not at the staffing levels that we should be at when the SAFER grant was administered?
Nope.
To maintain those 9 positions?
Nope.
Okay.
No. We are actively, we're actively pursuing to fill those positions. In this day and age, I'm not quite sure what takes the civil service test so long to return. But again, we're at the mercy of New York State when it comes to that. So we're somewhere between 90 and 120 days before we see the results of that testing. Goes to the Civil Service Commission, they establish the list, and then we work off of that.
So you think obviously until August, that would be the next time that we could actually fill some of those vacancies?
Yeah,
To know who's starting
besides
in the academy?
Besides the 3 personnel in the near term, yeah, that would probably be the earliest. And it's all dependent on our training division as well, as to when they can start the academy.
Okay.
He did say, what was it, 10 that have the academy that took the?
Yeah.
10 of the 66 signed up, so depending on where they land on the test results, those 10 may be eligible to be hired outside of academy setting.
For those 9 positions to be filled?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, it's not like all 10 of those will be on top, but you still have to follow civil service rules, but, you know, if 3 of them get hundreds, they would obviously be eligible. And we
Yeah.
wouldn't have to be constricted to the start of the academy.
Yeah, so anybody that, and that's the value of people that have gone through the academy, because we can do a very shortened orientation program, 2 to 3 weeks, and then get them operating on the fire department. We've taken advantage of that recently with 3, I believe it's, we hired 3 of the personnel that we hired in the past year have all been academy graduates. They go through an accelerated orientation over the course of 3 weeks, and then they hit the streets.
Do you have any other retirements coming up that you think that are going to be a significant loss to any other further staffing?
Any retirements at this point are a significant loss.
Yeah, no, I get
Yeah,
that, but I didn't know if you had any on the
I
table.
believe, yeah, we got pending retirements in August. We have 3, I believe, 3 or 4 people that are hitting their 20th year of service that are all eligible to retire. Right now, as of this minute right now, there are, I believe there's 20, I want to say there's 22 people that are eligible to retire. They've all indicated that, you know, they're staying for the time being, but any day, one of those 22 could decide to retire.
Okay, so if 22 of those, you could look at a potential of 33 vacancies by the time that August Academy comes. And
Yeah.
that's hypothetically
That-
speaking.
yeah, that's a hypothetical, but yeah. Yeah, so there is, you know, since January 1st, 2000, we've seen 158, almost 160 retirements on the Utica Fire Department. It's a complete changeover of the entire fire department. Obviously, from someone with 43 years of service, being Chief Brooks, to guys leaving in their 20th year. On average, in the past 26 years, most of our personnel stay around 24. But we absolutely notice an uptick in retirements at the 20-year mark, and that's something that you know, we're losing experienced personnel.
Okay, I mean, and obviously you hear somebody like Mr. Cayley talk about the number of buildings and apartments that they're adding, the number of structures, and I think that, you know, in all these discussions, you kind of got to keep in the back of your mind the staffing levels that the fire department, police department, and I guess anybody in the city's at.
Yep.
To be able to, you know, deal with these structures, whether they're 4-story buildings, 3-story buildings, they're definitely, you know, enhancing in size and structure, and I think that that's something, obviously, to keep in the back of our minds when hiring, is that there might be a possibility that you could need even more staffing.
Yeah,
in regards to that.
I definitely think that, you know, look, in the past decade, our call volume's gone up about 29% in the past 10 years. You know, our ambulances do not slow down. Right now, the backup at the local hospital has been, there's been 8 to 10 ambulances sitting in that parking lot at the ER. We had to call in additional personnel today to staff an additional ambulance because there was several times that either an ambulance from Ilion was dispatched to the city for a emergent call from Ilion. There's been Central Nada County's been into the city. I believe I heard Prospect dispatch, but they got canceled because one of our ambulances was able to clear up. So the call volume, especially on particular days, we know that Mondays, Tuesdays, our call volume is increased. It's consistent over the past couple of years, especially in these the peak operating times. I'm going to say from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. The hospitals, everyone's sick right now. The hospitals are certainly backed up. It definitely has an impact, you know. Every time we have more than 2 ambulance transports, we lose 7 engine. So 7 engines, the fire engine at Oneida Square. So that out of service time increases dramatically. So between ambulance 2 and ambulance 3 last year, doing almost 5,000 transports. So if you take that time collectively, that takes engine 7 out of service. It's just, you know, the call volume is absolutely increased. There's no doubt about that.
Obviously, with the recent fires and the discussion that we've had over the past several months in regards to the chief fire marshal's position, obviously there's been a delay in hiring that personnel for that office. Considering the recent stings of reported fires, whether they were intentionally set. Obviously, you stated that you just did an arrest on the Court
Utica
Street
Police did the
fire.
arrest, yep.
Well, yeah, obviously the Utica Police Department did. What is the status of the chief fire marshal's office, and what is the intent of hiring somebody in that position?
Interviews have been completed, and
When were they completed?
I believe the 10th, January 10th, right around that time. Waiting on word from the mayor. So we're working, and we've had a lot going on. We just got to make the appointment.
And those are obviously candidates that were eligible off the chief fire marshal's exam?
No.
So-
No. So what we had to do was we had to approach Civil Service Commission. We had to change qualifications to reduce the amount of time and grade for a fire lieutenant to be eligible. We only had 1 eligible candidate that remained off the chief fire marshal list. We wanted to at least attempt to try to broaden the pool a little bit of people that had interest in becoming the chief fire marshal. So we sent out a request to the department-wide back in December. We had 4 people submit a plan of what they think they want, the direction they'd like to see the fire marshal's office and the chief fire marshal go in. And one of those candidates withdrew his interest, and we were left with a pool of 3 candidates.
And they're from within the department?
They're all within the department, yeah. Yep. They're all internal candidates. They all have some good qualities. But we certainly got to make that decision.
The next question that I have, and I got I just listed everything down as I thought about it in my notes. One of the things I want to bring up, and obviously we can touch base on a couple other things. I know you wanted to talk about the hospital. Was in regards to the pest complaints that were received on behalf of the Utica Fire Department. And we talk about staffing and trying to retain people, and obviously some of these complaints that came in were a little they're a little nerve-wracking, I think, being a firefighter and understanding that there's some deficiencies going on within the department that need to be rectified. So going through it, I'll just give a summary. It says on October 15, 2025, a partial health complaint inspection was initiated by the New York State Department of Labor, Public Employee Safety and Health. That's what PESH is. At the Bureau of the Fire Department, located on 1501 Mohawk Street, in regards to, and I'll just go through a couple of them, and if you want to address those, obviously you're aware of them. There are some responses to them, but there was failure to comply with the 2 in, 2 out rule, improper use of the rapid intervention team, and lack of asbestos awareness training, just to touch base on a few. So would you mind going through some of those and how they're being rectified and making sure that, these conditions are obviously addressed within the department to making sure that not only firefighters but officers as well are feeling confident in the administration to correct these?
Sure. So I'd like to start with the asbestos complaint. So 2023, we were cited for an asbestos issue during the reconstruction and remodeling project at Central Fire Station. During the evaluation phase of that project, the asbestos monitoring company, the company that checks the building for asbestos, missed a couple spots. We were cited for it, ultimately, because I'm the fire chief. It was my fault that an independent company missed asbestos that I have no control over. But it was, look,
Can I ask one question before
Sure.
you go into that? So now is the asbestos company being put on notice as well for not properly going through the procedures that they were supposed to go through as well?
That was
And
addressed through
correcting that?
engineering.
What's that?
That was addressed through engineering.
Okay.
But, so we were cited for it. Because of that, we had to provide asbestos training. There was a couple members that were assigned to Station 3 on October 15th that somehow we missed the asbestos awareness training in 2024. We've addressed that. The entire department's worked on the asbestos training. It's a 1-hour awareness slideshow that you have to take to prove that you get tested on it and show that you understand the fact that asbestos is hazardous. That's been addressed, and it was addressed, I think, the day that we received the notice. We received this notice on January 15th. And obviously, the complaint originated on October 15th, and we received I believe it was, January 15th that we received the complaint. So that day, we went to address that complaint, and actually, the asbestos training had already been scheduled for the last 4 work shifts of January, so we just accelerated that and moved that so we can start the asbestos awareness training again, and that's an ongoing training that has to be done every year. Again, we missed a couple personnel. We've since 2024, we've changed the way we track training, so we will have a readily available printout so we can see the training as it's completed in real time. So that's been addressed. I believe that's been addressed satisfactorily, and we actually have some time left before we have to produce the records that it was all addressed.
So we had an informal meeting with PESH.
Yeah,
Myself, Deputy Chief Shear, Mark McLeod was there as well, regarding some of these complaints and whatever these violations. And we haven't heard back from them yet. We expect to hear back from them in the next day or two to see whether they're going to reconsider some of these. So I'm a little uncomfortable discussing some that may or may not end up actual violations.
So, one of the issues that they brought up in that complaint, though, is that, as a firefighter, we put ourselves in precarious situations. We try to mitigate risk factors all the time when we respond. We see it constantly. We bring it up here with vacant houses. Vacant houses, there's no one here, it's a vacant house. And we see it consistently all over the country that there are people rescued time after time from quote-unquote vacant buildings. It's very difficult to determine if a building's occupied or not. And, that's one of the things we struggle with on a very regular basis.
What do you mean struggling? What particular portion of it? Is knowing if you have to go in there anymore?
Yeah, we, as a firefighter, I think you have to assume, as a department, we assume that there's somebody inside that building. And if we can get into that building, we're going to do that. Great example, I have a fairly recent example. There was a fire in North Utica last Sunday. With weather circumstances and what's going on affecting the response times, we still managed to put several companies on that scene, and the second end company arrived within about 25 seconds of that first end. So there's a variety of tasks that need to be done before you make entry into an IDLH. 2 in, 2 out, it was written and put into effect, I believe, in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's an OSHA standard off of the 1910-134 standard. comes out of the respiratory protection program, which we have. And it just refers to that if there's 2 people going into an IDLH atmosphere, that there has to be a 2-person standby crew outside that is ready to go into that building to assist the firefighters. You know, there are circumstances where not everyone is arriving on the scene within seconds of each other. So there are circumstances, especially when you don't know if somebody is inside a burning building, that you may have to go into that building and take action before we have a company established on scene. We have policy in place. The 3rd engine that is dispatched or reported fire is the FAST team. It's the Firefighter Assistance Search Team. When they arrive on scene, they conduct a building size up that's already been done by the incident commander and the first in officer. Actually, everybody responding to that fire is always conducting a size up. They're conducting their personal size up of that building. But 2 of those firefighters, you know, they gather the necessary equipment. There's a list of equipment that we have to stockpile in front of the building, and their job is to help make the scene safer by placing ladders, clearing out windows, clearing out doors, but not getting involved in an operation that they just can't drop something and run to help somebody. That's their job on the fire ground. And we try to, you know, by rules, we establish that FAST team every time we go. There are times that we have to call mutual aid to provide a FAST team. It's just, you know, it's just how it goes sometimes, you know. You know, the unique thing about this job, the best thing about this job is that nothing's scheduled. The worst thing about this job is that nothing's scheduled. You know, so like other than showing up to work, you don't know what's going on that day. And so, you know, depending on call volume, what apparatus are in service, you know, how many resources are available at that particular time. It's the card that you're dealt, and you have to make the best educated decision, and that's why we train our firefighters and officers to make good decisions.
And Chief, I think that goes back to the point that you have, you know, the operational responsibilities and duties to make sure that these are also being addressed. And this happened on or about October 15th, so it was obviously before any of the recent stints of fires that had happened, you know, this past January. But I just wanted to bring it up that I do find it concerning that it was a type of violation that was serious. And then obviously it notes that it's not meant to preclude firefighters from performing emergency rescue activities before an entire team has been assembled, obviously based on the fact of whether or not somebody's inside that fire.
Sure.
So I guess it goes back to my point is, you know, during these discussions of talking about having a chief fire marshal and going back to one of the concerns that I had, not having somebody in that position for over a year and then eliminating it and then bringing it back, was codes is an extremely important component to your job. And I think that, you know, with the 1203 inspections and so on and so forth, having somebody in that office and not sharing those responsibilities in the fire administration would be able to prevent some of these things from possibly happening, knowing that these are part of the daily operations and not part of the chief fire marshal's responsibility to be able to handle that. So I guess it goes back to my point, and I've said this for quite some time now, is that I think that that's an important part to your fire administration and having that. I'm not, this is by no means bashing you or anything like that, but I guess it goes back to my original point of having somebody in that fire marshal, chief fire marshal's office is important to your day-to-day operations as well. Not just only the operational components of the fire department. Is there anything that the council could do to help maybe as far as the 1203 inspections go, to maybe updating some of that if you do get somebody in that position, being able to handle that responsibility and do it to where the position was in prior years?
Yeah, so I think one of the big steps that the city's taking already is the accessibility online and the ability to schedule the inspections, pay for the inspections, send reminders, set your own inspections. We have a fairly old system in place where there's really no fillable forms online. You can't choose inspection times, you know. So that's something that the city's working on. There's new software that's going to be coming. So I absolutely look forward to that. That's a key component to a lot of the stuff is tracking, and, you know, in the past year, we've definitely seen, actually, the last several years, we've seen a significant uptick in no-show inspections. You know, certain companies, LLCs that are saying they're not getting notices for inspections, that failure to, you know, follow the local law with registering your property and getting that inspection done. So that's definitely something that we have seen. Some of these consistent properties, we are spending an inordinate amount of time going back to on a regular basis. They don't quite meet the criteria to close them down, but they are absolutely quality of life issues. And I'll second that with what Mr. Calla was saying earlier about a certain property on Genesee Street. We deal with the elevator out of service constantly. It's the old elevator, just the minimum updates to just do enough, and it's continually breaking. And these people, the occupants that are, you know, they're stuck in their apartments day to day. You know, there's somebody that's on the 10th floor. It's tough for the fire department to send someone there to carry somebody up 10 floors. And, you know, it's really up to that building owner to fix the issues. We see that at a lot of these, and not a lot, but we have a grouping of buildings. They'll pass inspection. Just as an example, it'll pass an inspection when we're there, and it took us, call it 6 appointments of 2 off-duty firefighters and a fire marshal going there to keep on working with building management to get them up so we can at least get them to passing. And a month later, we are back there again for complaints of a mattress in the stairwell, or hypodermics, and people sleeping in the stairwells, and you know, vacant apartments having extension cords run out of them to the next door apartment. You know, just stuff that we see on a pretty regular basis. There's definitely a measure of frustration because we do what we can to get these buildings and work with the property owners and try to help the tenants, but you know, we're back at them constantly. That's a constant headache. Marcus will tell you the same thing with a lot of these places. We are dealing with this stuff on a pretty regular basis, and we don't have a lot of good resolve from it. You know, again, they don't meet the criteria to shut the building down. We don't meet the criteria to cut the power and to have to relocate however many people, but it's definitely a quality of life issue for the residents.
I got a good question on that, with
Yeah.
the stairs.
Yep.
Now, can we write, I wonder if we could write legislation, any building over 3 flights of stairs, if the elevator isn't working, we could charge them like $500 a stairs that we're bringing people down, if that would be something like that. And I bet if you hit them on this $500 a stairs, and they're gonna see they're being charged for that, I bet they would fix their elevators. I wonder if there's
You
some
know,
kind of legislation.
Some of it's not just their desire not to fix the elevator, it's the age of the elevator and the parts
Well,
restriction.
put a new elevator in.
No, right.
If you're
Yeah,
running-
yeah,
if you're
that's-
running-
that's-
Pass legislation, make it
If
put a
you
new
run it,
elevator.
I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if that would be, I'll run it by our legal department, that's something we could do. Sometimes you have to force their hand to make things right.
They should absolutely be required to, they have some residents who can't take the stairs, so they're stuck in their apartments.
Yeah.
I mean, they should absolutely be required to provide
And the only way they're gonna
different
fix
housing
this
for
is
them.
if you stick them in the
while
ass
repairs
with
are
it.
being made.
Yeah.
So, you know, and dovetail off of that, you know, similar, not a similar situation, but we dealt with a big uptick of just having to send a fire truck to a nursing home to do lift assist, to lift heavier patients, because the nursing home staffs are being told to not pick the people up off the floor. So, you know, like, we see this stuff, and we look at our call volume, and we look at what goes on locally, and how we're utilizing resources. And you know, I don't know what a nursing home charges or a adult care facility charges per day, but the fact that they gotta call the fire department to come pick up a resident and utilize us when they have staff, you know, or they're probably utilizing us because they don't have an adequate amount of staff, you know, that's concerning in and of itself. Nationwide, we're certainly not on an island when it comes to that. Department after department across the United States is asking their local legislatures to pass ordinances charging for these lift assist, and it becomes a huge time soak for our firefighters. We're missing heart attacks, or we're missing fires
That's
to
something
go.
we can pass though, right?
Yeah. Like I have some sample
something
legislation.
I asked for it at the last meeting,
Yeah.
and I know you said you were working on it with
Yeah,
Corporation
I have the
Council.
sample legislation, so it's definitely something that we want to get to you guys.
This is for the lift assist. That
Lift
was
assist-
one of the things
lift
that we,
assist
that was
is
brought
good.
up.
We have spares as well.
Can I just finish up before I
Yeah.
just, and then I'll pass it. I just got a couple more questions, and this goes back to one of the points I was gonna bring up. And this is from a list of the fire marshal duties, that I had brought up. I don't remember off the top of my head who was appointed to this, because I didn't include that into the original question that I had. But one of the responsibilities of the chief fire marshal was to oversee the New York State required elevator program. So who's overseeing that now?
There's no chief fire marshal right now.
So
And the other issue with that, probably the bigger issue with that, is that we've never had an established software or system that shows us anything with elevators. So we go back to the online registry. There's nothing, like, those elevator things are just sent in, basically on their honor, because there's no way to submit it. There are systems out there, there's software systems out there, we've looked at several, that it takes the submission process. The companies that do the elevator inspections are familiar with it because other municipalities use similar software. And so it takes that whole process of tracking, whether it's an elevator inspection, escalator inspection. I don't believe we have too many escalators in the city. Any lift that goes over 5 feet, or up, and anything that lifts over 5 feet has to be inspected. But they use a system that they have to submit that paperwork to. It's the same thing with the fire alarm inspections that are required, the fire sprinkler system inspections that are required, backflow water preventions. It's all stuff that, again, we have to get those systems established, and we just don't have a great system for
All right,
that.
so let me go back. There was a
Yep.
couple other things that I wanted to touch base on, and obviously I'm not sure because I look at the last chief fire marshal exam, and that was 2023, so it really doesn't, I guess, make a difference because you obviously changed some of the qualifications for what the duties and responsibilities and qualifications were to be, but there was this list at the time, and it really kind of touched home with a lot of the things that are going on. So it was obviously determine the cause and origin at every fire within the city, and assist with the cause and origin investigations outside the city when asked, okay? We don't have anybody to help with outside investigations. The state comes in and helps us with any fire investigations that we have now.
So we will call them if we don't have a fire investigator available, we will utilize the Office of Fire Prevention and Control. For the fire on Jewett Place, we called them because our investigators collectively don't have a lot of experience when it comes to a serious fire.
I
So
understand.
we use them to backstop them, their knowledge. They also, they have access to canines to assist in the cause and origin determination as well. So they are an asset, and we absolutely utilize them from time to time.
Okay, and then obviously until we determine the rest of the causes of the origin of the other fires, one of the other things that they were responsible for was heading up the arson task force when an arson occurs. Do we still have that anymore inside the city?
We do not have an arson task
Okay.
force right now.
The other question was, he will be in charge of all codes programs within the fire department, including managing up to 100 fire department codes inspectors.
Mhm.
That would still be the responsibility of the chief fire marshal once you appoint them, or is that something that's been?
No, so the lieutenant that we have assigned to the fire marshal's office at this time is a code enforcement teacher, actually, and he has handled all the code enforcement training for the fire department for the last several years. He's actually one of the few firefighters in New York State that is certified to teach the building safety inspector course on his own. And he's actually been teaching code issues around the country over the last year and a half. So his qualifications to administer the education portion of the code enforcement program are certainly present.
Okay, and does that go into obviously overseeing the state required assembly regulations, or is that something that?
Yes, yeah, because he's a certified he's a CEO, yeah,
Okay.
a code enforcement official.
Okay. And then who now supervises all educational programs, obviously fire prevention through that? I know Mr. Rundle handles that.
Yep,
But
yep.
is there anybody that, from the Chief Fire Marshal's office that would oversee there, or is that strictly been
so
given that
for-
responsibility?
For
What one was that? I'm sorry.
That one was
the
to
fire
supervise
prevention
all
program.
educational programs at the city schools.
So, truly for the last decade or plus, now Captain Joe Pulio has really administered a lot of the fire prevention program, and firefighter Brandon Rundle has stepped up and really stepped into that role of organizing the fire prevention program, and obviously you know, they have a huge impact on the local students. I believe we did something to the tune of 30-something presentations between October and November. And we try to maintain that fairly active fire prevention programming in the community throughout the year.
Absolutely, and they do a great job with
Yeah,
that.
like I got to tell you, they, you know, that program really evolved from the late '90s with the Local 32 and starting the puppet show, and then it's really they do a good job, and it's always something that, you know, that's something that you know, we can definitely see the impact on the community with that program.
And then one of the last things, and like I said, I don't remember the date that this was administered, so it could have changed since then. But it says it works with the Refugee Center to ensure all refugees that come to Utica are educated in fire safety.
Yep.
So do we have a liaison within the fire department that works with the Refugee Center?
It's just out of fire prevention, so we'll go as requested now. After the Adrian Terrace fire of 2013, there was obviously some big things that we addressed with the through the Refugee Center with fire safety, and still on a pretty regular basis we try to get in there and do presentations to the Refugee Center at their request.
Okay. And then the last one that I had, you might have to come back to me on. But those are all the questions that I have for now.
Okay.
Before we go around the room here, thank you, Chief Ingersoll. Thank you, Assistant Chief Noon. We also have Union President of Local 32, Mark Nicoletta. Before we go around, Mark, is there anything you want to add at this point?
I mean, at this point, I mean, Sam touched, or Councilwoman Claus-Matesta touched on a lot of the stuff. Obviously, the concern with not having the Chief Fire Marshal, I know it's been an issue for over a year now. It was taken away, and then you guys thankfully brought it back in September. Still not having someone in that position. Chief Ingersoll just touched on how there's a lieutenant serving that position right now. Although we understand that, you know, someone needs to be in that spot, that's still a lieutenant that's taken away from the line. Lieutenants are meant to be line positions, and they're serving that office. So hopefully soon we can get a Chief Fire Marshal appointed to that position and free up the lieutenant spot. And then the other thing I got while I'm in front of you guys is there's a graphic going around that we put out last week. We used 2011 as a reference point because that's when our department was cut down. 2011 we did 13,000 and some odd calls with 25 guys a day. In 2025 we did 1,700 some odd or 17,000 some odd calls with 23 guys a day. I know you guys can't control our daily staffing. That's all done contractually through our CBA and the administration, but we need more staffing. I know budget season is coming around, numbers are going to get tight, but we need more staffing. The only reason why we're able to sustain a 33.6% increase in calls is our guys are hardworking, they're dedicated, and they just get the job done. That's what we've always done, but we're tired and we need help. We need more guys. I know it's a typical union ask, but we need staff.
No, we appreciate that, and with that, we could start with Councilwoman Aiello. We could go this way around this portion.
I'm good, but thank you for coming in.
I know you've all been here for a while, so I'll cut this down. But there are some questions I'm interested in here. So, we look at call volume increase in Utica population over the period from 2011 to 2026. Are we seeing primarily more calls because do we think it's an increase in population or an increase in emergency calls for non-emergency scenarios? Can we break that down a little bit?
I think it's twofold. I'm no census expert, but I would argue that the most recent census, I don't know, our call volume is more akin to a larger city, 70,000+ people. I don't know. I don't have any scientific data to back that, other than the fact that when I drive around the city on a day-to-day basis, it's busy. It feels different these days than it did in the past. Our school district is still huge. Yeah. So there's definitely, you see lower acuity calls that are coming from a population center that needs help, and we're an access point to that. Our ambulances transport about 70% of all calls that they respond to. Out of those calls, you get about a 65-35 split of basic life support calls and advanced life support calls. So even that 30 to 35%, there are definitely higher acuity calls that you're seeing. But we're also, we have a lot of repeat users. We'll see them a couple times in a shift. We'll see them a couple times over a few days. So that's definitely something that our personnel, it adds to the call load, and it's definitely something that we see.
And being, obviously we're here at a council committee meeting, so from the perspective of the council, and from the union's point of view, from the chief and assistant chief's point of view, what can the council do, just piggybacking on Councilwoman Testa's earlier question, what can the council do to spread awareness, create legislation to ensure that more individuals are educated on when 911 should be utilized versus when, and Chief, you touched on this, I think, a meeting or two ago, versus when urgent care is a better option.
Yeah, I definitely think, that nurse navigation program that the county has implemented, having telemed readily available, and whether that's something that we got to look at as a community and, have, the county reach out and with social services and really get people, whether they can work with Ubers or something like that to get people transported for lower acuity calls. I still think, we're lacking a 24/7 urgent care, which is a big problem. We're lacking a pharmacy that's 24/7. Those are, access points for people that, if you need medicine, you need medicine. And, we want to keep them out of the emergency rooms, the low acuity calls out of the emergency rooms if we can. So that's definitely something that, again, I'm just a fire chief, but from my perspective, when I look at some of these calls, we can, there's nothing more frustrating when we're going for a low acuity toothache and we're missing a high acuity difficulty breathing call, and it's not always the best use of our resources because we have a small pool of resources that are available to us. When those are tapped out, we see this domino effect come in where we have to wait 45 minutes for an ambulance to free up or come in, and it's a big problem, and we're putting our personnel in some precarious situations as well because you got to make some decisions, because if you have a seriously ill patient, and there are no ways to get that patient transported, I mean, you know, the next thing you know, we're putting them in the back of a fire truck to bring them, which is not what we want to be doing. But, you know, I look at my firefighters, and they are doers. They get stuff done, you know, and, you know, and not that I'm advocating for that, but like there are, you know, situations that, you know, because we're on a bunch of low acuity calls that, you know, these high, true emergencies where we don't have the resources for them sometimes.
No, thanks again, and with that, I'm all set. Questions?
I'm good.
Thank you guys for coming. I know you had your hands full the last month. I think I seen you and told you I appreciate everything you do. And that's really all I have. The only thing is I can relate to what you're talking. I have a gentleman that lives across the street from me.
Mm-hmm.
You guys were there last week twice. Once fell out of bed, he couldn't get up, and another time my wife told me they were there again too. So
Yeah.
I see what you
Those
guys.
calls we
I
don't
see your
mind,
back.
you know, like, those are, you know,
Right.
you know, it's,
Yeah, don't confuse that with going to a commercial entity and picking up.
No, I know.
I don't want anybody who I know is.
No, I know, it's the
And,
same.
Yeah.
but
If
it's
people
the
need
same.
help to get picked up.
Right.
That's 100% our
yeah,
job.
we will absolutely come and help you. It's just that there are times that, you know, you're gonna have to wait a little bit, or, you know, depending on the severity of the call, you know, we can end up having to reroute resources.
That's all. Thank you again.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Pretty much any questions I have were already asked, so thank you.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Testa had her turn earlier, so we
Yeah,
can.
okay. Nice try, nice try. You're taking a playbook from Jack, I understand, no. 24-hour urgent care. Where in the surrounding areas do we have a 24-hour urgent care?
We don't.
Syracuse, New Hartford,
I-
Albany?
I
I mean, I don't just,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah,
off the top of my
just-
head, I'm just trying to think
yeah,
that, to see how that could possibly alleviate.
You know, I just, you know, again, I'm just a, I'm just a fire chief, but one of the constant things that we talk about is low acuity and access for the low acuity patients to be able to get to a place that is located in a reasonable distance and get access to medicine and.
Chief, and I'll give you a perfect example. I think, you know, the time my daughter was extremely sick and I couldn't get her fever down. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, am I going to be a terrible mother by waiting it out till 6 o'clock for it to open? But I would have taken her, you know,
Sure.
easily taken her to an urgent care, and we ended up in the emergency room because of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do understand, you know, trying to hold up, and I don't want to take it, you know, a
No,
9-year-old
no,
little girl to the
that's-
emergency room
No,
when
and I
it
don't
couldn't
wanna
be something that.
Yeah,
Well, it
yeah.
couldn't be something that might not have been as serious, but, you know, you're trying to be
Yeah, and I'm
overprotective.
not saying that not
I
go to the emergency room, it's
I
just
brought my
that.
son to the emergency room once for.
No, and that's what I'm saying, like,
Yeah.
you know, you think like maybe it's the flu or something like that, would you go to
Yeah.
urgent care instead of tying up the emergency room? So
Can-
that's
can I
something
just
that,
say one thing off what you're saying about
Sure.
urgent cares? Also, urgent cares have changed a lot too. You used to be able just to go. Now
Yeah.
you have to make an appointment for
Yeah,
urgent care.
yeah, yeah.
So there's not that ability just to go to bring your kid or yourself
Sure.
during the day anymore to urgent
Sure.
care. So I'm sure that is
Yeah,
a
yeah,
big
that's-
thing. You can't, if you're sick at
You know,
3
again,
o'clock,
I-
you can't
I-
go in. There's no appointments available.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I've shown up to urgent care,
Yeah.
you know, and
They
they've,
don't even let you show up
taken me
anymore.
in, so I mean,
Yeah.
that.
They
I
don't
didn't
let you
know-
do it
I didn't know,
anymore?
I didn't
No.
know that. 'cause
They
that
will
was
not.
just-
Bleeding.
That was just
Slocum
over
Dixon
the-
will say, no way, they
Yeah.
don't, you have to make an appointment.
Okay. And Mark, since we got you here, do you just want to touch base? I didn't want to, you've taken your time out. Do you just want to touch base on negotiations? How they're going? Do you have any concerns? Is there anything that you find
we,
a concern, and kind of give us an update on where they're
We
at
have
now?
a mediation appointment scheduled for February 18th. Anything other than that, I think it's, I'd rather keep the negotiation process between us and the administration for right now.
Okay.
I appreciate
And lastly, do you see an exodus of staffing if you are not to come to determination of that mediation? I guess if it had to go to an arbitrator or something along those lines, what would be your next step where you would think that you could possibly see that continuous exodus of people
In
leaving?
conversations that I've had with a majority of the 22 guys that we have eligible, a lot of guys fear for arbitration, and I don't know if they would stick around, and I also don't know if the city can afford to lose that experience.
Okay. That's
But
it.
yeah, there's concern for an excess if arbitration were to happen.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Do you know if the city is working anything on a 24-hour low acuity? Are we talking to the hospitals to see if they could put one together somewhere? Is that something you might want to mention to the administration, that, you know, our economic development team or one of our teams could get together
Sure.
and try to develop something with you know, well, it's got to be in the city, and, you know, we got the hospital right here, and maybe they could put something together. That's one thing that I think coming out of here, which I think would really alleviate a lot of your work, if we could put something like that together.
It would definitely, you know, lighten the use sometimes, that's for sure.
Of the emergency.
And one other thing, and because you guys have been here a long time, is that, and I had to talk to you about it, and the unions talked to me about it, and is, you know, are you guys talking? Because I remember we were gonna have a talk about, me, you, and the union guys getting together. Are you guys doing that? Are you talking regularly? You getting a
We're
little
having good
better?
dialogue.
The communications coming, that was one of the things when we talked earlier, that,
Yeah, we're usually
you know, you were
talking.
having that day when we had the whole union over there, and they weren't too happy with you. Are we working on that?
Try.
You see an improvement in that?
We talk pretty regularly.
Do you see an improvement on the people?
In which specific issue?
Well, when they came back and they weren't happy with the chief. Do you see an improvement with your firefighters? Do you?
I would say morale's still pretty low. If I can give you a better answer, if you give me an exact topic.
Well, they gave him like a no vote of confidence, and how are we fixing that?
I don't know that there has been a fix.
Say again?
I don't know that there has been a fix.
With their what?
I don't know that there has been a fix.
Well, what are some of the things that you would like to work on to see if there's a little better? I mean, that's what we're sitting here for, right?
I don't believe we're here for the vote of no confidence, no.
No, but how are we gonna get things better? What he's working on to get things better?
I think they're not in contract. I think that some of the pest complaints were concerned. I think staffing's a concern. I think all the topics that were brought up
But
tonight.
Sam, I'm not talking to you.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
mean, you were here. so
Well,
you know.
I'm discussing it because this is one of, I mean, I hear it. I mean, so I mean, we got you here. What, I mean, are you discussing it, trying to fix it?
We're having a
Yeah,
dialogue.
we
I
have
mean,
pretty open dialogue.
Yeah, we're trying to talk, and, you know, the stuff, it's not all fixed overnight, that's for sure.
Well, I understand that.
Yeah.
So as long as you're working on it, and I think that's the main thing. There's always gonna be issues, I understand
Yeah,
that. with you.
absolutely.
And I concur with that, but as long as you guys are talking and finding ways maybe to get a little confidence back with the management and everything.
Sure.
That's always a working plan, I understand that, but, you know, I don't wanna have, you know, 6 months from now, you guys all piling back in again, and I ask, are you guys working on it, and it's not being done, that's all.
If I
Because it wasn't good for us that day, and I'm sure it's not good for you
I
guys.
agree. It's
on
not
a
great
daily
for us
basis.
either.
Right.
Me and Jason
So,
have been trying to work
so,
on a relationship.
so me and Samantha talk on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I punched her in the arm the other day, by the way. So anyways, keep working on it, guys, and, you know, I know it's a tough job, but, you know, we all need to get together, right? Thank you.
Sure.
All done.
Can I just add one thing, as far as all that goes, I'll put my 2 cents in. I would think a lot of it, there's probably two factors. There's probably a lot of it caused by short staff and guys overworked. And secondly, not knowing where a contract is. So I would think that if we could fix those 2 things, I would hope that the morale would automatically increase a little bit. If I'm wrong, it's just me looking in on the outside, but I would think, you know, I know how it was when I worked, when we were short and you had to work 60 hours a week, you were miserable. When you didn't have a contract or you didn't get paid or, you know, so I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that if we can get a contract solved for you guys and we can get the staffing up, I think that would help out a little bit.
Yeah.
So, thank you guys for everything you do though. Appreciate that.
Oh, Councilman.
Back in the day when I worked at St. Bede's, we used to get the same repeaters all the time. They bring in an ambulance and take a taxi home, and the county would say, well, we would pay for the ambulance, but we won't pay for a taxi to get you to the hospital. And that was a county issue, and that was 30 years ago, so that sounds like it hasn't changed.
All liability based.
If the county can kind of step up and help us.
They have in certain places, you know, that nurse and navigator program was definitely well-intended. Just not sure a lot of people are taking advantage of it.
You know, 'cause I remember that, you know, I'm going home now, I can get a taxi and a taxi will take me home.
Yep.
You know, but how'd you get here? Well, the only way I could, I can't call a taxi because I had to pay for it. The county paid for me to ride an ambulance. And I'm thinking, how wrong is this? And this was 30 years ago, so evidently we haven't fixed that. But I just wanted to,
Yep.
Well, maybe that's something we could talk to the county about. I mean, that's a real,
well, sure, you know.
that's a thought in
Well,
there.
maybe get a chance for Dan for the fire department, so they won't have to put an ambulance service out. You know, I don't know.
Sure.
You know, I don't know the answer, but I just throw it out there.
Mark, did you want to add one more thing, Mark?
Yeah, I have one more thing. Mr. Cali was here earlier, gave a nice presentation about all the projects that People's First is doing. I believe he said they're going from 360 units up to 430 over at Parkway Gardens. I'm not sure how many units he said about the Cornhill project. We saw a large number of units go in over at 700 Broad Street. It's a great thing that they're doing. They're adding all these units. However, the more units you add, it's a more strain on the fire department. We go to these buildings all the time. I mean, you guys can see we go to 700 Broad quite a bit. We go to a lot of these housing projects quite a bit. So as these housing projects grow, I think it's only right that the fire department grows with it. I mean, we see an uptick in our services once these buildings start getting filled. So that's all I just wanted to add.
And one of the things that I think that's an important topic of discussion for that is the amount of times that police, fire do respond, and you see that they're a non-taxable entity. It's maybe time to have a discussion to see if they would be willing to pay, you know, a per year rate. So definitely something to bring up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone, for coming. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that.
Second? All right, adjourn. Thank you.